I was working in a museum in Paris when an American tourist asked why we still use Roman numerals on the building's date inscription. You guys know about regular numbers now, right? He said. They're way easier to read. You should upgrade the plaques. He was genuinely offering feedback to a 17th century facade. A friend of mine in Greece said an American couple once asked if they could ride the dolphins during a boat tour. When told that wasn't allowed, the man said, "That's disappointing. In SeaWorld, they let you do that for an extra fee." They couldn't comprehend that wild animals weren't part of a package deal. At a cafe in Kyoto, a woman from California asked the waiter for Japanese matcha, but without the green. When he explained that matcha is by definition green tea, she said, "I know, but can you just make it like beige? The color doesn't match my Instagram palette." While visiting a museum in London, a tourist was staring at a display of medieval armor and muttered, "Wow, they were tiny back then. This is like kid-sized." He then asked the guide if he could try one on for a TikTok, insisting he be careful because he used to work at medieval times. I was on a flight to Oslo when an American passenger called over the flight attendant to ask, "Can you lower the clouds? I can't see anything." She gently explained that clouds don't move on command. He sighed and said, "This is why American airlines are better. The pilots actually try." A friend working at a hotel in Dubai said a guest from Texas refused to remove his shoes before entering a mosque on a guided visit. If God made the floor, he argued, then he should be fine with me wearing boots on it. The guide simply smiled and handed him disposable shoe covers, which he called holy plastic socks. At a wine bar in Florence, an American couple was offended when the waiter poured only a small amount of wine in their glasses for tasting. "We ordered wine, not samples," the man said. "In America, we don't mess around with baby pours." He then asked for ice cubes to stretch it out. A student visiting Norway for the first time asked a professor, "So when do you turn off the northern lights?" He thought she was joking. She wasn't. Like, you must have a switch or something, right? For tourism hours. At a restaurant in Istanbul, an American woman complained that the menu didn't list calories. When told that wasn't standard practice, she said, "How am I supposed to make healthy choices if you don't tell me how many calories are in kebab?" The waiter simply replied, "Madam, in Turkey we eat with joy, not calculators." I was working at a bookstore in Edinburgh when a tourist asked for the original Harry Potter castle. When I told her Hogwarts was fictional, she frowned. "No, I mean the real one, the castle they built before they made the books." She seemed genuinely convinced J.K. Rowling had based a series on a physical government school for wizards. If you are enjoying this story, please subscribe to support the channel. I worked at a luxury hotel in Zurich when an American businessman called the front desk furious because his room didn't have air conditioning. It was midwinter. I explained that most Swiss buildings rely on ventilation and insulation. He interrupted, "I don't care how you people do it. I pay for air. Turn it on." While touring a cathedral in Seville, a tourist asked the guide, "When does the choir come out?" The guide said, "There isn't one today." The woman frowned. "Then why is there music in the background?" The guide paused. "That's the echo of your voice, madam." At a museum in Beijing, an American couple stared at a 3,000-year-old bronze vessel. The man asked, "So is this like an antique or a replica?" The curator said, "It is authentic." The woman gasped, "You mean it's real ancient? You should really put that in a vault. People might touch it." A friend working in a Tokyo restaurant said a customer once complained his sushi was too small to fit sauce on. When told that sushi pieces are meant to be eaten in one bite, he said, "Well, in America, we take our time. You should make them pizza-sized." I was volunteering at a wildlife center in Australia when an American tourist asked why all the kangaroos were outside their cages. The ranger explained that they live in the wild. The tourist looked horrified. "That's so unsafe. What if one escapes?" At a vineyard in Spain, a visitor asked a winemaker if they made non-grape wine. The winemaker asked, "You mean like cider?" The woman said, "No, wine, just without the grapes, for people who don't like fruit." While giving a history tour in Krakow, a tourist interrupted me to ask, "Why don't you guys just build a new old town?" When I said the point was to preserve history, he nodded seriously and said, "Right, but you could make a cleaner version with better parking." In Copenhagen, an American man walked into a cafe and demanded real Danish coffee. The barista asked what he meant. He said, "The one from IKEA, it comes in a blue packet." He was genuinely upset when told that IKEA coffee isn't a national beverage. At a thermal spa in Hungary, a woman shouted at the lifeguard that the water was too warm. The guard explained that it came naturally from underground springs. She said, "That can't be hygienic. You should cool it down with ice from a machine so it's more sanitary." During a ferry ride in Greece, an American passenger complained to the crew that the islands are too far apart. He suggested, "You guys should move them closer together. It would save tourists so much time." I was working as a tour guide in Rome when an American man asked, "So, when did they rebuild the Colosseum after the war?" I said it was the original, nearly 2,000 years old. He squinted at it and said, "No way. If it was that old, it'd be like dusty or something." At a sushi restaurant in Osaka, a woman demanded a fork. The chef politely handed her chopsticks again, explaining it was tradition. She sighed and said, "Fine, but I'm docking you a star on Yelp for cultural inflexibility." A friend of mine in Prague said an American tourist once asked if the astronomical clock runs on batteries. When told it was built in the 1400s, the man laughed. "Sure, but you've updated it since then, right? You guys have electricity now." I was working in a small bakery in Vienna when a tourist ordered an apple strudel and then sent it back. "It's not sweet enough," she complained. "You guys should try using sugar instead of whatever healthy stuff this is." It was, of course, made almost entirely of sugar. At a zoo in Singapore, an American father pointed at the orangutans and asked the keeper, "Are they rentals or permanent staff?" The keeper stared blankly until a man clarified, Do you rotate them from other zoos so they don't get bored?" During a tour in London, a woman looked at Buckingham Palace and asked, "So is that like the British White House?" The guide said, "Sort of, it's the monarch's residence." She nodded. "Right, but who lives there when the king's on vacation? They should Airbnb it. It's such a waste." At a market in Marrakesh, an American man asked why everything was made by hand. "In the States, we have machines for this," he said proudly. The vendor smiled and replied, "Yes, and that's why ours last longer." The man didn't get it. I was working at a hotel in Helsinki when a guest complained that his shower water wasn't warm enough. It turned out he was trying to shower in the sauna, insisting that the rocks were the faucet. A friend working in Amsterdam said an American tourist once asked, "Do the canals run on a schedule?" She thought they were like Disneyland rides and was confused when towboats could just enter whenever they wanted. While visiting a cathedral in Lisbon, an American woman pointed at a statue of the Virgin Mary and asked, "So, is that his wife or his mom?" The guide said, "His mother." The woman nodded. "Right, I always mix up the family tree." I was working in a museum in Madrid when an American tourist looked at a 17th century oil painting and asked, "How did they get the colors so accurate before cameras were invented?" When I explained that artists mix pigments by hand, she nodded slowly and said, "So it's like early Photoshop." At a cafe in Copenhagen, an American man asked if the croissants were locally sourced. The barista replied that they were made that morning. The man frowned. "No, are they Danish croissants? I don't want the French kind." While touring a castle in Germany, a woman asked, "So where did the king park his car?" The guide said, "This castle is from the 13th century." The woman blinked. "So like a horse garage, then?" A friend of mine works in a sushi bar in Los Angeles. A tourist from Texas pointed to the soy sauce and said, "Is this the vegan version or the regular kind?" My friend said, "They're both vegan." The man looked suspicious. "Then why does it taste like meat?" At a hotel in Reykjavik, an American couple complained that their room temperature kept changing randomly. The staff explained that geothermal heating systems adjust automatically. The husband sighed. "You people really overcomplicate everything." A simple thermostat works just fine in Texas. I was at the Louvre when a woman walked past the winged Victory of Samothrace, glanced up and muttered, "She's beautiful, but they really should have finished the arms." During a tour of the Vatican, an American man asked the guide, "Do you guys still believe in all this, or is it more like a museum now?" At a small restaurant in Tuscany, a tourist asked the waiter for real Parmesan, not that fake Italian stuff. When told it was Parmigiano Reggiano made locally, he said, "No, I mean the one from Kraft." A friend teaching English in Poland said one of her American students once asked if Europe also celebrates Thanksgiving but like on a different time zone. When told no, the student said, "That's sad. You guys should have your own Independence Day too." While visiting the pyramids, an American tourist pointed at the sand and said, "You'd think by now someone would have swept this place up. It's just lazy maintenance." If you like this story, please subscribe to support this channel.